Hey there, welcome back. So today I want to talk about something I call the home plan. And what a home plan is it's basically a collection of tricks that you have up your sleeve, tricks or strategies, whatever you want to call them, tactics, uh, to use on those days when you're basically captive at home with a child or a teen or a young adult in crisis. We all have those days. We know them quite well, thank you very much, if we are parenting or otherwise caring for kids with significant mental health disorders. Whether the day starts with your kid being unable to lift his or her head off the pillow, get out of bed and face the day, or whether it starts with you at work or getting a mammogram or at the doctor's with a different kid or in your own graduate school classes. I don't know what you're doing at the supermarket, taking the dog for a walk, whatever it is. We've all gotten those calls, had to put everything else on hold, pick up our child, go home, and try to figure out how to hold things together for the rest of the day, how to make the home space safe, and just make it through those hours that are going to be unfurling before you. And there's all this uncertainty. We're going to end up at the hospital. How are things going to resolve today, if at all? What's tomorrow going to be like? What's tonight going to be like? Do I need to call my partner to come home? And what about the siblings? So again, the home plan allows you to be prepared so that when crisis strikes, and we all know it strikes with very little warning sometimes, we're prepared. Okay, so let's think about the areas that we need to be prepared in. First of all, if you have a kid at home who's seriously dysregulated, then you probably have a kid who may not be so safe, either in terms of their own bodily safety, as well as any siblings who might be around, or pets, or adults, right? So what do you do to maintain a safe space, so that, God forbid, you have to go to the bathroom, you can take your eyes off of that kid for a few minutes at most. Sometimes you won't be able to do that. You'll have to pee with the door open. We've all probably been there and done that too. So that's one aspect of a home plan that you have to have tucked away in the back of your head. I may not be able to go to the bathroom at all, or if I do, I may need to do it in a very non-private way. But what do you need to do? I mean, you should always have a plan in case your kid is either aggressing outwardly or engaging or likely to engage in acts of self-harm. You got to have somewhere to hide the stuff that can be weaponized. So we're talking about knives and scissors and razors, laces, belts, medications, alcohol, all those things, cleaning supplies. I mean, it goes on. And yeah, you're going to want to pull your hair out when you're listening to this, but better be safe than sorry. And what that means is having a plan that you can draw on, not while your hair's on fire and you're racing around the house, but when you have even just a few minutes where you can take care of that stuff. Now, for some of us, really life involves hiding the sharps and the dangerous stuff for months on end. It just lives somewhere else, ideally somewhere that no one under the age of 39 would ever think to look. And for others, things come in and out of hiding, but it's awfully hard to take care of that stuff when you're in the middle of a hurricane. So again, at least if you know where it's going to go and you know what the signs are that you might need to hide it, and if you don't get any warning, you know how you're going to deal with that until you can make your space safe. You're just going to do better if you have that already tucked away. So that's number one. Number two, you have work. Let's say you work outside the home. I know if you're parenting a kid with a significant mental health disorder, you work all the time. You're working 24/7. You might be working 2 full-time jobs. But you need to know how you're going to deal with these moments, and they may be frequent when you're pulled out of work or you have to call in, you can't go. Do you tell your boss? Do you tell HR? That can be a risk. It can be a win. It's hard to know, and you have to figure that out. Does your employer have any programs in place to help families going through crisis? Do you know about the Family and Medical Leave Act, which is a federal act meant to protect people like us, but you won't necessarily get paid if you need to take time off under it. Know how you're going to deal with these inevitable disruptions to your work life before they happen, if you can, if you possibly can. And if you can't, you can't, and it's not your fault. Other things, you know, how are you going to feed the family? Like, there's no food in the house, I can't go to the store because my kid is, literally, figuratively exploding. Well, you can get groceries delivered. Sometimes it doesn't even cost more than going out to get them yourself, and they can be left on the porch. Nobody has to barge in on the chaos that's unfolding at home. Siblings. What do you do about siblings? Because God knows, even a sibling who's not at any risk, you may have a kid at home in crisis who's not at all a danger to anyone except for themselves, or maybe not even that. Maybe it's all emotional turmoil and anguish. But that can be traumatizing for a sibling. It's traumatizing for anyone. It's traumatizing for us and for our kids who are dealing with those internal storms and maelstroms. So you can imagine what it might be like for a sibling, and especially a young sibling. So is there a place, do you have a plan in place where if things really start to go downhill fast, that other child or children can go to feel safe and be safe? Friend, family, what have you. If not, then how do you talk to them about it? And how do you talk to them about it at a time of relative harmony and peace at home, so that your hair isn't on fire? I know I use that metaphor all the time. And they're calm, and you can just sort of talk about what does happen sometimes at home, and how you're going to keep them safe, and their sibling or siblings safe, and yourself safe. Sometimes we might feel we're not really telling the truth to our other kids if we say we can do that, and yet sometimes it's what we have to say. But be aware that you have to have, if you possibly can, something in place to protect the other vulnerable people in your household. Again, sometimes we can't do that. When we can, it's a good thing to do, and having a home plan can help with that. I talk all about home plans in the second chapter of my book. I won't go into more detail now, but it's definitely worth thinking about ways in which you can be totally prepared, so when crisis hits, you are ready. Thanks so much for stopping by. See you soon.